Hello everyone, welcome to the Vishwashanti Darshan channel. The programming of the channel focuses on science, spirituality and peace. The channel is the brainchild of the Apostle of World Peace, Vishwadharmi Professor Dr Vishwanath Karad. I had been presenting to you the program Gyan Vigyan Dhara, wherein I shared my thoughts related to science and spirituality. Going a step further, we are lucky to have Dr Deepak Ranade. He's a consulting neurosurgeon. He has been contributing to the regular columns of the Times of India, The Speaking Tree. During my chat with him at the studios in VISHWARAJ BAUGH Loni, where he had come to see the world's largest peace dome, I posed 10 conversation points to him on his understanding of the domain of consciousness, which he says he is still understanding. So let's begin the tete-a-tete.
Hi, welcome to Vishwashanti Darshan channel. Today I have invited a very special guest, Dr Deepak Ranade. He's a neurosurgeon. Dr Deepak Ranade has a great interest in reading about consciousness. Discover your identity only to lose it. Doctor, a bubble in the ocean has a distinct identity within the realms of water, of course, but that exists only till the thin separating membrane exists. Now, as per your writings in the Speaking Tree, Times of India, I remember the membrane of separation you have said is the ego.
Yes.
Why do you say so?
Yeah. This is a very profound question, and it probably is. This whole idea and concept is a culmination of a lot of brainstorming that has happened in my own mind, and plus whatever I have come across in my readings. You see, when we in one of the biggest attributes of our philosophy and our Hindu ideology, I would say, I don't look at Hinduism as a religion, I look at it as a philosophy, where they say that when if I try to make sense of this whole universe, or what is this universe, we talk of me, the subject, who is trying to understand the objective universe. Now, I have been greatly intrigued by trying to make sense of it all. Like to look at the whole galaxies and this 14 billion years expanding universe, and it's staggering. And I realized that I had never been able to find an answer to the question as to who made this, who created this, what was the Big Bang. So this whole domain of thought process and this investigation leads you to some point where you say that either I give up, and then you end up being an agnostic person, a person who does not believe, who believes that there is some power but I don't know what it is. So when I am trying to cognize the universe, I am trying to, quantum physics has now come out with a very interesting conclusion rather, that when I am studying an experiment as an observer, that observer is part of that experiment. So I cannot draw conclusions because I am very much a part of that experiment. You understand?
That is what's being observed.
Yeah, so I, as an observer, I am participating in that experiment. So a participant in the experiment cannot conclude, because he is part of that experiment. So that when you start investigating on the lines of quantum physics, and when you start, one of the greatest objectives of this whole exercise and endeavor is perhaps the merger of this science and spirituality, because science is barking down by a road which we call as reductionism. They'll keep reducing things to go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to come. But that reductionism will get perhaps you to a point where it will tell you some things, but it will still not give you an answer as to why. So now coming back to your question, the ego is the sense of separateness. That is, I am a distinct entity and the world is different from me. So that is my sense of, so the ego is like they say, man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. These are the four components of the ego. Now, if you to give the analogy of the bubble, I am part of this experiment of the universe that I am observing. Correct. So I cannot conclude anything. So if I am a part of this, there must be something that is a veil between me and the observed universe. And what is that veil? And so when you go through the scriptures, one of the standpoints or one of the primary objectives of spirituality is to find answers to who am I, And also the second important objective is to get rid of the ego or the false identification of the mind, body and the man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. So when perhaps at a stage of revelation or self-realization would be when if this so-called veil of my believing that I am, that sense of me is restricted to a mind, body. But if that veil is torn, then I'll realize that I'm merging with this whole universe, and which is what they talk of Aham Brahmasmi. That means like Rumi had once very beautifully said that I am not a drop in the ocean, I am the ocean in a drop.
Okay.
So that's what it is. So when that would be the point of realization, and when we are, it's very unfortunate that state, when that state does come, there is no experiencer. It is all that remains is just an experience. There is no experiencer. For that experiencer, there has to be a separateness to experience something. But when that experiencer dissolves, what remains is just an experience. And that is perhaps why our very, very rich lineage of saints have tried, and of whom I would give the greatest marks to Sant Jnaneshwara, who has come closest to probably describing this experience in words, because when he achieved that state of realization, his awareness had heightened to such a point that he could actually describe that. So that experiencer, although it had dissolved and had become an experience, still could recount some points which mere mortals like me can take tips from. So it's very paradoxical that when I say that, when I get to know who I am, because our spirituality is all about Koham, and when that stage of Soham comes, that I am that, my identity goes, and what remains is just the experience. So I do hope that at some point in time, this, like they say that even quantum physics is now moving from the domain of experiment to experience. It is becoming more experiential rather than experimental. And that, I think, again, like I had mentioned earlier, would indicate the significance of science and spirituality merging.
Also, somebody had said very nicely that ego also means edging God out.
Absolutely.
Somewhere you remove God from,
Yes.
then you can remove it.
Absolutely. So the other aspect of this is, if one can eliminate the sense of doership, which is also something which I'd written an article called The Divine Understanding, which had come in the Times of India Crest edition, which says that we need God only to explain our deficit of our gaps in our understanding. If I don't understand something, I attribute it to God. If I do something and that doesn't happen as to my expectations, then I say that it is karma or destiny or God. But if you, for a moment, get rid of this element or aspect of doership and say that I am not a doer, I am an observer, I think it eliminates a lot of problems.
That brings us to the next point, the invisible safety net. The artists in a circus do death-defying leaps and stunts, but they are aware of the fact that a net is stretched below them for their safety, easing their nerves rather than improving their skills. So in the light of above, don't you think that the safety net is counterproductive?
In my considered opinion, I call that as an invisible safety net, is because I know for a fact that I have my own self-belief and confidence that I am never going to fall into it. Because even if one were to fall, it would be quite a catastrophic event, nonetheless, in spite of the net being there. But you see, what happens is that this invisible safety net is actually a synonym for faith. Even when let's assume that net is there or not, there is, whenever you are doing, when we are talking about death-defying stunts, there is an element of faith. And that faith in something, in some object or whoever it might be, is necessary. Because you see, I am a neurosurgeon, right? And I operate on the brain. And there have been untold instances and episodes where, in spite of having done the best job, there are some events which are beyond my control, which intervene and mar the whole picture and outcome. So, to assume that I am self-sufficient to tackle any kind of a problem in any activity that I choose to do, would actually, it increases the ego. And there's a very thin line that separates being good and being overconfident.
Yes.
And if you don't want to be overconfident, I have always maintained this principle every time I do surgery, that I am doing this step, I hope I'm doing the right thing, and I question I am my own devil's advocate to make sure that I'm not trespassing that fine line between being good and being overconfident. Because the moment you become overconfident, you are extremely vulnerable to taking some wrong decisions and steps which cannot be corrected, because then they are irreversible. So this invisible safety net which I'm talking about is perhaps this reference to this faith, and to believe that I have to be good in what I am doing, no doubt about it. It is not that faith is going to compensate for my competence.
Correct.
My competence is understood, it's a given. But that is not necessarily sufficient to get the outcome that I want. And so what is that lesser than phenomenon that I have to respect? It is that invisible net. It is that belief that I will be doing the right thing, and that ability to genuflect or to kneel down in front of that, and that humility, that modesty is the safety net that one has to always keep in mind. So if that is removed, it might improve the performance, but at the cost of getting overconfident, which is very likely for it to have a very, very catastrophic situation at the outcome. So it is just symbolic of the faith, or symbolic of the humility and the modesty that one has to have.
Nicely put, very nicely put. Thanks, doctor. So I would like to give a halt to this episode here, and we'll take it up next week also. Keep watching Vishwashanti Darshan.